If you think seeing the same number every day, hearing the same phrase in different places, or running into the same coincidences is just random chance, you might be ignoring the most important calling of your life. And no, this isn't some cheap mystical talk. It's soul science, it's energetic intelligence. Carl Jung once said that what we call coincidence is often the universe's way of speaking to those who are ready to listen. And if you're noticing repeated signs more often, it means something is trying to wake you up. Right now, here's the problem. Most people dismiss it as nonsense and keep living a life that has nothing to do with who they really are. But today, you're going to learn how to read these signs like a spiritual map that can change everything, and much faster than you think. But there's a catch. Understanding this takes courage to see beyond the obvious. Are you ready? Some people wake up every day at 3:33 a.m. and think it's just insomnia. Others keep seeing 11:11 on the clock for weeks in a row. This isn't luck, bad timing, or coincidence. These repeating signs are trying to wake you up from the autopilot of daily life, nudging your awareness towards something bigger. When the universe wants to speak, it doesn't use words. It uses symbols, patterns, and seemingly random events. But here's the thing. None of it is random. If you feel like something is trying to get your attention, you're probably right. Now think about this. How many times have you heard the same song in different places, or had someone call you by a name no one's used in years? These things hit different because they feel too personal, and that's because they are. These synchronicity patterns are like spiritual notes left by your higher self, and each note carries a message. Look within. Ignoring these messages is like hitting the snooze button and going back to sleep. But what if what you've been calling coincidences is actually the beginning of your spiritual awakening? These signs might show up as repeating numbers, vivid dreams, or even that chill-inducing feeling of déjà vu. And don't think you're alone. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, said that synchronicities are responses from the collective unconscious. And guess what? He wasn't just talking to philosophers or scholars, he was talking to me and you. And if you've made it this far, it's because something inside you already knows this. So, what are these signs really trying to tell you? That's what we're about to start uncovering now. When we talk about synchronicities, a lot of people still think we're dealing with magic or superstition, but that's not quite it. Carl Jung was the first to put this into words with courage and clarity. He believed that meaningful events, even without a logical connection, are actually messages that appear when your inner world and the outer world come into resonance. It's like your soul winks at the universe and the universe winks back, and that wink shows up as repeating signs, as if the cosmos were saying, "This way." These patterns tend to show up at key moments, when you're about to make an important decision, when doubt is creeping in, or when your life feels like it's falling apart on the inside. It's not random. These are coincidences with a purpose, designed to align you with something greater. Once you start paying attention, everything seems to click into place. A random conversation that brings you the answer you needed, a book that falls off the shelf with the perfect sentence, or even a butterfly landing on you when it feels like your world is falling apart. That's vibration. That's energy. That's a sign. So when synchronicity patterns start showing up, pause, observe, feel. Don't overanalyze or force a mystical meaning onto everything. Sometimes just noticing is the answer. And if you want to go deeper, start asking the universe questions like you would an old friend. What do you want me to see? It might sound strange, but the universe responds. It always has. The difference is, now you're finally learning how to listen. And once that listening becomes a habit, the signs multiply. There are repeating signs that show up so persistently, it would almost be a disservice to your intuition to ignore them. The most classic example, repeating numbers, 1111, 2222, 333. They're not just there, they're delivering a vibrational code that activates something within you. It's as if the universe is setting a meeting time with your own consciousness. Another common sign is hearing the same name over and over. Maybe it's an old friend, or even a mentor you haven't met yet. That's the universe preparing you for meaningful reconnections. Constantly seeing butterflies, dragonflies, or even white feathers might sound like something out of a movie. But when it comes to synchronicity patterns, it's very real. These elements of nature show up when a vibrational shift is happening within you. It's like life is saying, "You're changing and we see it." Finding coins on the ground, repeatedly encountering specific animals, or experiencing déjà vus so strong they leave you dizzy for a moment. All of it is symbolic. These are non-verbal forms of spiritual communication, and they reach those who are becoming more attuned to subtle frequencies. One sign you should never ignore is that recurring thought that seems to come out of nowhere, especially when it returns days later, followed by some strange coincidence. For example, you think about starting something new, and then, suddenly, someone sends you a video on that exact topic. Coincidence? Carl Jung would say no. He'd call it synchronicity in its purest form. And the more you recognize it, the more the universe delivers. But what should you do when all of this starts repeating like an echo from the invisible? Take a breath. There's a practical way to respond. Noticing the repeating signs? Great. Now it's time to do what almost no one does. Pause. But it's not about stopping your body. It's about quieting your mind. Most people ignore synchronicities because they're stuck on autopilot, trying to find a logical explanation for everything. But this isn't about logic. It's about listening. When you notice a repeating number, a wild coincidence, or a sign that feels like it's poking at your soul, don't just brush it off and keep going. Sit down, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what is this trying to show me right now? That question opens a portal inward, and here's a practical tip. Keep a synchronicity journal. It can be a simple notebook or an app like Notion or Evernote. Write down everything: time, place, what you felt, what happened before or after. This habit builds a bridge between the visible and the invisible. Also, seek silence. Guided meditation, walks in nature, or even spiritual baths with coarse salt and herbs like rosemary can help align your energy. When you quiet the noise, the synchronicity patterns speak louder. Another powerful tip: use oracles mindfully. Tarot, angel cards, even bibliomancy, the ancient practice of opening a book at random to find an answer, can help you interpret the signs. Want to start light? Read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle or The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Both are full of hidden spiritual triggers. Because yes, even a book can be the vehicle for a message. And if all of this is starting to resonate, you'll be surprised to discover who else has experienced this. And what happened next. When Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million and kept it in his wallet, he wasn't playing make-believe. He understood that repeating signs were shaping his destiny before success ever arrived. One day, while still struggling in his career, he started seeing the number 10 everywhere, on buses, clocks, tickets. Coincidence? Not to someone who understood the vibrational game. He used it as fuel to stay focused until years later he was paid exactly $10 million for a film. Synchronicities? You better believe it. Oprah Winfrey often talks about listening to that still small voice within. When she ignored it, things went wrong. When she followed it, doors opened. At one point, she had recurring dreams about an enslaved woman. Shortly after, the role of Seth in Beloved came to her. And guess what? Repeating numbers started to show up, along with signs in conversations and news stories about the same topic. She knew it wasn't random. It was the universe saying, "This is your calling." That's how synchronicity patterns work. When the message is meant for you, it comes with your name on it. Even Will Smith has shared how the script for The Pursuit of Happiness found its way to him through a surreal sequence of coincidences. First, it was a forgotten book on a flight. Then, a single phrase he heard 3 times in 1 week. He says that when signs like that show up, he doesn't hesitate. He moves. And the same goes for you. The question is, what patterns have been knocking at your door, waiting for you to answer? What signs have you been brushing aside out of fear, doubt, or distraction? Maybe it's time to start seeing them with new eyes. You can't pretend you don't see the signs anymore. They're right there, flashing before your eyes, whispering between the lines of your conversations, echoing in your quietest thoughts. And now that you've learned to recognize these repeating signs, these synchronicities that Carl Jung studied so deeply, tell me, are you still going to pretend it's all just coincidence? Or are you finally ready to admit the universe is calling you towards something greater? Because here's the truth. Either you follow the synchronicity patterns, or you keep walking in circles, stuck in a script you didn't write. But now you've got the tools. You can write down the signs, decode the repeating numbers, observe the patterns, and have a real conversation with life. You can even come back to this video whenever you need a reminder. Just don't keep living on autopilot, ignoring what's screaming inside. So tell me, what's the strongest sign you've ever received? Have you ever gone through something that felt impossible to explain, but somehow led you exactly where you needed to be? Share it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want to keep diving into this invisible universe that moves everything behind the curtain of reality, subscribe to the channel right now, hit the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to wake up too. Because sometimes all it takes is one synchronicity to change the entire course of your story.